Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, and today we're going to be doing our next project in TinkerCAD. This one's called Die from Scratch. We're going to make a die from scratch. We're going to read the directions because that's what we always do. This lesson is all about the workplane and how to make it work for you. We're also going to combine everything you've learned in the basic lessons here. So let's get started. Begin by finding the blank die shape in the Shapes panel. You will find it in the Symbols shape panel on the right side of the screen. I don't know what they mean by Symbols shape panel, but over here in Basic Shapes, there is a blank die shape, and that's what they've asked us to find. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out and move it to the target. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and use the arrow keys on my keyboard to put that where I want it to be. There you go. We're going to drag the blank die shape to the area outlined in orange. You may need to change the shape drop-down menu from basic shapes to symbols. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I don't see symbols in here anymore. I think they changed this menu. Anyways, it's right there under basic shapes. Let's go ahead and do the next page. So, die from scratch. The following lesson is part of a bigger TinkerCAD project. Check out this and more projects on TinkerCAD's instruction page. Okay, so we're going to locate the workplane tool in the top right workplane tool. And we're going to click and drag a new workplane to the top surface of the die. I can put it on different surfaces of the die. I'm going to put it on the top surface. They even put a little white thing there to try to help you figure out where to go. Next. Great job, right? So your workplane will now appear as if it were sitting on top of the die. And you can see that the orange graph paper does seem like it's sitting on top of the die there. We're going to locate the number 1 from the Shapes panel. Now, for here, we're looking for text and numbers. And we're going to go to page 2, and there it is, the number 1. You may need to change your Shapes filter to say text and numbers, okay, because we can do that. And we're going to drag number 1 onto the workplane. And I can slide it around on the workplane. I'm sliding it around on the top of the die because I set the workplane there. All right, make sure that it's where you want. Adjust it with the arrow keys if you need to. Okay. Because number 1 is sitting flat on top of the die, we need to adjust it to make it cut away from the surface. So let's move the shape down 1 millimeter to fit in the highlighted area of orange. And you can see that they've got a highlighted target for us there now. So to do that, we're going to select the number 1. I'm going to click and drag the lift handle here, this black triangle thing, and I'm going to lower it. So it's -1. I've lowered it into the workplane 1 millimeter. And we're going to move the shape down 1 millimeter. There we go. And then it's off target a little bit. You can see I'm having trouble using the arrow keys, getting it exactly on target. Taking steps that are too big. To fix that, I'm going to change my snap grid. You should be used to changing your snap grid whenever you need to. We're set to 1.0 millimeters right now. I'm going to set to 0.25 millimeters. That way I can take smaller steps and be more careful about putting this exactly where I want it to go. Okay, so it's right on target now. Remember that you can change your view or zoom for a better view when positioning shapes. I recommend you do that constantly in TinkerCAD. And they say changing the snap grid here, changing the snap grid from 1.0 to 0.25 may also help with positioning. Well, it did. We already did that. Okay. I'm going to click next. Die from scratch. So we're going to repeat the previous steps to place the other numbers on the other surfaces of the die. Okay. So grab the workplane tool and drag it to another side of the die. There we go. Then we're going to get out another number. So now we're doing number 2. You can put out number 2 in the same way that we put on number 1. And we're going to move it 1 millimeter inside the die. So again, using the lift handle, I'm going to lower this by 1 millimeter below the workplane. Let me say below. I mean, if we looked at it this way, I would agree that that was below. But basically moving it into the workplane by 1 millimeter. And then using the arrow keys to get it on target. Okay. Now we're going to grab the workplane and drag it to the other side. it over here. And then we're going to get out the number 3. Okay, and we're going to do that. And then you can already guess what we're going to do, right? We're going to move it 1 millimeter down into the work plane. So I'm going to grab this lift handle. I'm going to move it 1 millimeter into the work plane and then use the arrow keys to get it onto target. And can you guess what we're going to do next? Grab the work plane, drag it onto the die. We're going to get out our next number, which is number 4. I'm going to drag it onto target. Can you guess what we're going to do next? We're going to grab the lift handle and lower it 1 millimeter. Whoops. 1 millimeter into the work plane, and then make sure that it's on target. Looks like it's pretty good. And then we're going to do another number. Drag the work plane tool onto the other side. And now we're going to get out a number 5. And we can slide number 5 around the work plane. And then we're going to grab the lift handle, move this 1 millimeter into the work plane, and then make sure that we're still on target. Okay. And then we've got one more to do, right? So we're going to grab the workplane tool. Going to click next. Going to grab number 6. Right? And I realized some of you might have thought I grabbed the number 9. Right? When you're working with something that can be upside down or whatever else, just be careful what you're doing. I'm going to move this number 6 into the work plane by 1 millimeter, and then there we go. So now I've got everything on target and set the way that we want it to be. Right. So we've placed all the number of shapes. Now we're going to reset the work plane by dragging it down onto nothingness. Come on, work plane. Reset the work plane. There we go. Resets the work plane back to its original position. Now we're going to select all the numbers and set them all to be holes. And they're going to create 1 millimeter cutouts in the die because of that. So, all right, so we're going to select all numbers and then set them to be holes. So there's more than one way to do this. You could just select, we've only got 7 shapes. We could select everything this way, hold down Control, and then click on the blank die to deselect that. Hold down Control. Sorry, I think it's Shift in TinkerCAD. Hold down Shift and click on the die. So now I've got everything. I've deselected the die. So now I've got everything else selected. Right. So by selecting everything and then holding down Shift, I can deselect something that's selected if I click on it. So now I've got just all the numbers selected. That's one way to do it. If you prefer, you can just hold down Shift and click on the numbers one at a time. Just make sure you get, there's one in the back that we can't see. So I'm let go of Shift, hold down Shift, and then click on the 5. And now I've got all the numbers selected, but not the blank die shape. Now I can convert them to holes. Okay, so we've done that. And now we're going to select all of the shapes. I'm going to draw a rectangle around all of them, including the die, and group them by clicking the Group button on the toolbar. There it is, Group. Give your computer a minute to think about that if it needs it. And then now you can see we've got our cutouts made into the die. And everything seems centered and well positioned and is looking good. You'll know it's successful if the shapes become the same color. So everything is just one color now. Although if you want to change the color of your die, you can do this. And this goes along with the idea, if we were going to 3D print this, of choosing what color plastic that we're going to use to print this with. Okay, so that's the big idea. Then TinkerCAD throws confetti up in the air, but please remember that does not mean you did a good job. Right, yours should look like mine does right here in the picture. Please make sure that it does. Right. And you can click done, and then you're going to be done with your project. All righty, so that's it for this one, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.